everybody, and welcome to the final day of the Double 10th Joint Conference of ICTAM and ASHM. 欢迎大家呢继续参加我们双十年会的第3天的大会。And now to moderate Keynote Session 4. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your moderator, Dr. Xiamen, Lay Director and Research Fellow, Institute of Modern History, Academia Sinica. Let's welcome him. 接下来我们掌声欢迎我们第4场次的主持人，中研院地带史研究所雷昭玲研究员兼所长。And now over to our moderator.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues and distinguished guests, it's my great honor to serve as moderator for today's keynote section. And I cannot help feel the success of conference is very evident, as I still feel vitality and enthusiasm from all of you, even though this is already the 3rd day of our conference. And today, we are very honored to have with us 3 remarkable keynote speakers. Our first keynote speaker really needs no introduction, Professor Angelika Messner, the co-host of our conference and the president of ICTAM. We have all benefited from her caring welcome in the past several days. And the only information I would like to share with you is that she has a long-lasting collaborative relationship with Taiwanese colleagues. She's a PI of a Taiwan-Germany joint research project for 5 years, Materialities of Medical Cultures between Europe and East Asia. The title of her keynote lecture is Towards New Anthropology of Care. Please join me in welcoming Professor Messner.
Dear colleagues, dear friends, so my talk is towards a new anthropology of care. This is what bothers me since a few years, also in our joint project. And now I just let you know, I share some thoughts about this. I hope within 1 or 2 years I have really created this new anthropology of care, maybe together with you. So I start with, we can observe the largest reviews of world mental health since the turn of the century testify increasing numbers of depression and anxiety, of the feelings of isolation and loneliness, as the leading cause of disability in the 21st century. Also, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and including the WHO, most recently report increasing numbers of young and old complaining about persistent sadness and hopelessness, with more than 1 billion people suffering of depression, neurodermatitis, and digestive problems, all of which was linked to resentment, high stress arousals, and anger during the COVID-19 pandemic. It is said that these emotion or so-called mental disorders more likely led to death due to the virus than among those without such disorders. And it is expected that the long-term effects of COVID-19 on the emotion disorders will continue for many years to come for us. So we will have to deal with this issue for many years. All this goes hand in hand with the observation that during the pandemic, too many people died either due to overprotection or due to a lack of personal care. Lack of personal care is a form of overprotection in the sense that care here is reduced to serving as an instrument for a politics of minimal existence. So protection and rescue only, but not vitality and all what we want. Care in particular, also medical care, but needs to be allowed to not concealing the importance of antagonism, ambivalence, and conflict in diagnostic and therapeutic processes, as much as in the organization of collective and individual life. Therefore, I argue, and this paper is just about this, that the radically increasing numbers of mental health disorders within the past few years relates to the devastating effects of our ongoing transformation of care. And as you know, we cannot not to care about others. So, but we are in a process since 20 years, since a few decades, all over in Middle Europe and also here, I think, towards we transform care from an all-embracing care, and now I need to go to the next slide, I hope. From an all-embracing care to a process-optimized care. What does this mean? Process-optimized care requires doctors and caregivers a minute-by-minute billing of contact times. This is supposed to be the most effective and reliable clinical encounters in hospitals as well as in homes for the elderly. However, this kind of care brings frustration on both sides, the patients and the care receivers as well as the caregivers. Therefore, in a release from June 22, the WHO urges to step up commitment and action to change attitudes, actions, and approaches to mental health and to emotions. So how will we deal? What do we understand emotions are? The need to reshape and to reform the care for people's mental health is evident. And a reshape of care is not just a matter of adjusting a number of administrative things. It requires but a fundamental reworking of the ways of care and the very attitude. And this is my argument here. This needs to be approached by a new anthropology to come. So away from just the cognitive approach to I think therefore I am, towards I care, therefore I am. I will now go a bit deeply. So this anthropology of care, you see, I will talk a bit from. I will dwell on 17th century on some medical texts from the Chinese context and tell you how, because the emotions are so many things. So we have many definitions. Emotions are physiological processes, but at the same time they are social processes and so on. And so we have something in between the molecular and the social. And this green field here, so I regard this as a space in between, and emotions emotions oscillate in between, and they are at the same time, they are simultaneously both physiological as well as social processes. And this is something which in our present day conception and definition of emotion somehow is a lack there. We are not really sure how to deal with this. And now I just would like to quote from my old Chenshador from the 17th century. He wrote several books, and one among is Shusha Milu, so the hidden records from the stone chamber. I just quote a longer text relating, a very, very special situation of a patient he deals with. And now, so what was his situation? He reports, all in all, he reports of growing numbers of exhausted men, pensive women, and people suffering of longing, of love sickness. He reports of frustrated, humiliated young men suffering of indignation and anger, of hatred, resentment, and the background for this. So it's quite similar to our situation in a way. Of course, as you know, in the 17th century, we had, and Martha can tell a lot about this disease, also pandemics in a way, epidemic disease, which reduced the population from nearly 150 million to 90 million. So we have many things going on, but I focus on this background, on this social background, that we had at that time an ever-increasing number of Shanghai, of aspirants for the examination that had gained the academic qualification for the imperial examination, but due to a stagnant number of official positions, they were unable to enter an official career. So this kind of frustration was really kind of epidemic of the pandemic. These men lost their vital resources in the midst of threatening social political sphere, that the individual bodies in the form of resentment and humiliation. So, and this is what I'm interested here. I have a medical text that deals with this social political environment, and at the same time he deals with the patient, with a very concrete individual, how he brings together and how he understands what's going on. So this frustration, what's going on. He all throughout applies the concept of Wuzang, the Wuzang as a conceptual marker in a Chinese medical thinking for emotions. And this is something we need really to take for serious if we go along with this text. Now I quote, "When someone suffers extreme pain in the heart, the suffering is such that he does not want to live anymore. He screams the whole night. Tears and mucus incessantly pour from his eyes. People think that this must be due to a possession by demons or demons. Yet, actually, it is the fire which attacks the heart. What was the cause for this, he asks his readers. The uneasiness was caused by the oppressed liver qi. The heart," so now he goes along, what is going on in the heart? The heart correlates with fire. Fire, however, should not blow too extremely. If the fire blows too hotly, it might lead to burning the heart. So, Francine, and it happens very often that the heart burns and the person dies at this moment. So can you imagine? So you have here a report, a description of what's going on, really in a concrete sense. So therefore, he goes ahead. Therefore, if the fire in the heart is flourishing too much, then the heart generally will dislike the fire. So he will just go against. And if the heart, moreover, additionally receives the supportive fire from the liver root, which is in this system the mother of the heart, then the heart cannot absorb all this fire. And this is the moment when I as a physician I observe the patient. This is the moment it cries for help from his four near neighbors. The four near neighbors of the heart are the kidneys, the lung, the spleen, and the liver. And this is the moment as we can hear, he cries out, he cries, and this is the moment when mucus and tears are delivered and poured down over. So he really, in shows us very, in an enlightening way, how he connects. So he just deals with this space in between. He has this individual, this very concrete bodily processes going on, all the suffering, and at the same time he explains us by social ideas about this. So what we see here, the burning heart that itself is marked as blending the social with the corporeal reality. Burning the heart, Francine, refers to both emotional distress and pain in the viscera. So unbearable pain in the viscera. The heart pain, the symptom, and its polysemous meaning requires the doctor to act as a mediator. So the doctor mediates between the patient, who cannot declare himself he is crying and cannot tell us what's going on, and at the other side, between his family. So he tells, and the neighbors, who all believe in demons and ghosts, that this patient is possessed. And secondly, the doctor, moreover, he surpasses the level of description by moving now to the vast field of yin and yang viscera and to their connections with the border of the body via channel systems, the Jing law, and finally, he, the doctor, so the medical writer here, gives all the tears and the mucus, all the crying and despair, a rational meaning. So he explains all what's going on, these symptoms, as articulations of disharmonious relations among the five inner viscera, the Wuzang. The heart remains but the site of deepest despair. The low warning of dissolving himself, so he's almost dying. However, the doctor's explanation turns the heart into a victim himself, and namely the victim of one of his neighbors, so the liver or the lungs or the other organs. And this way, the extensive flow of tears and the cries of the heart is given diagnostic meaning and curative hope. The Chinese medical textual archive abounds in case histories concerning with the workings of emotions, and not only from the 17th century, also later on. And so we have a fine-grained knowledge that reveals insights into the emotions role, and now I'll go to my next, into the emotions role as yes, you see, I have written really a lot about these things going on, also about pain and so on, so if you want to, you can see. But here I have a slide on what's about the emotions, so we can analyze, we can just put some clear analytical frame on the emotions. What they are. So they are always, I think they, of course they are, as we learn also from this case history, they are physiological processes, so they cannot distract. At the same time, they somehow seem to move in this, what I call this space in between. There is something. We have no clear explanation about what's going on, but there is a space, at least in what we can think about them. So they moved as mediators between this bodily, unexplained and unclear processes going on and the social environment. And at the same time, emotions. So we see, this is very important. I have here a knowledge about emotions. And this knowledge about emotions, which you can extract also from the Chinese historical archives, this knowledge about emotions also influences the way we experience emotions. And that's why we cannot, if we take for serious, really, also Chinese medicine, we cannot psychologically, say, yeah, this is a psyche, what is a psyche? We have this conceptual marker of the Wu Zhang, and this means different things, it's very, very, very clear and very fine-grained knowledge. So this is, for me, also a basis for our upcoming new anthropology of care. We need to take for serious this knowledge about the emotions. Yes, so I have said, wait a moment, yes, I have argued elsewhere, and I showed you, I have the past 15 years elsewhere, that the Wu Zhang marks a technique of blending. So we have the Wu Zhang as a conceptual marker, and we have many, many texts that testify this, not only medical texts, also literary texts, philosophical texts, from nearly 1,000 years, in the Chinese context, and this we need to take for serious because it shapes the way people felt and perceived how they dealt with these emotional distress in the past times and now. Still, because I did some really long-term fieldwork in Hangzhou, in Zhongyi Menchengbu, from 2013 to 2018, and then I could really see this is a vivid tradition. It's not just gone, So the blending of the social with the painful bodily suffering that shapes medical and lay perception alike, and the handling with suffering and mental health issue through the peers until today. Wu Zhang as a collective term for the heart, lung, spleen, liver, and the kidneys served as the operational level and instrument, as a conceptual instrument in which people and doctors alike perceived and handled emotion processes and pain and suffering through the times. So this of course, for us, for our anthropology of care, also requires we somehow do away the hierarchy of knowledge between, so what Judy yesterday called the imperial knowledge, and the so-called pity, the small traditions. We need really to dissolve this hierarchic knowledge. So, and when it comes to the medical domain of theory and practice, care and cure are to be recognized of the same relevance. To reinvent care on the ground, on the grounds of this what I had said now, to take for serious fine-grained knowledge and knowledge about really important things going on. So I care, so this would mean that we change our perception, our approach of care from I am, I think, therefore I am, so I care, therefore I am. I respondeo ergo sum in the Latin, so I react, I am always in conflict, I cannot do without. And this is, I think it's rather new. We are not used to conceptualize and to go further on this, and this is what I really also invite you. I would very much like to have another conference only on this issue. Yeah, and so that means, let me move it. There's another. Yes, here you again. I say what I presented here just very briefly is one level of analysis of this unexplored space in between the molecular and the social level of being. And then we had, so I told you we had this transition, ongoing transition since a few decades in all medical environments, from an all-embracing care for life. In Chinese, you have different conceptions. Also in the Christian, the caritas, there are many, also in the Chinese history, the xiao, the care, the pai, and so many different names also for this all-embracing care. It means an unconditional devotion and loving care. It's not so much technological, and it has not necessarily to do with only to be in love. It's a technique also. I care, therefore I am. I cannot do without. So care is impossible to be done beyond relation and interaction. The fabric of interaction between people and environment involves responsivity, the dimension of appreciative attitude for both, for the care receivers and the caregivers alike. So we have to be aware that human interaction neither is woven from the material of cognitive speech acts, nor from the material of technical assistance alone. So we can read Heidegger and many other philosophers. It needs to be grounded on a bodily embedded appreciative attitudes, on a way I am. So, and this needs careful. We need to. It's not sufficient to say a few words. I am. We need to develop this new anthropology. So, as said already at the beginning, I started with the pandemic that testified that subjective and individual experience, anxiety, depression, and other forms of detachment. So it has a lot to do with detachment from the others and from the environment. We experienced all during the pandemic, increasingly threaten health at the global scale. And for this we have many statistics. WHO and so many other centers for disease control we already developed, already showed, testified. So we are now in need to recognize the experimental character of the wide range of contingent and subjective factors and uncertainty that at best is met by local knowledge, and this is what I also refer to, Chinese, Indian, or many different traditions, local knowledge about how to best respond to disease and crisis. We need to address the many newly emerging assemblages of people, networks, social movements, and above all, we need to recognize the accumulated embodied knowledge and the lived experience, and rather than stick on language and representation. I think we are really now in a moment we need to go further on this path. So a new anthropology of care is thus a form of inquiry with the human grounded on and embedded in ever-changing being with worlds on the grounds of the skillful blending of the social with the bodily realm, and with all-embracing care that should now replace the following the 20th century so well-developed process-optimized care, which we all suffer from that. So this is my last work, and thank you for your attention. Let me just
Thank you so much for Professor Messner's timely and very inspiring lecture, which invites all of us to use traditional medicine to address a very important issue of our contemporary world. And we have several more minutes, so floor is open for questions.
Hi, Angelika. Thank you so much for this, for your talk.
Hi.
Hi. I was wondering, so this is a small question. So among the Wudang emotions, there is pensive women and exhausted men, but love sickness is not distinguished by gender. Are there things that you've observed in terms of what is a sign as gender difference or gendered at all?
Yeah,
especially in the case of love sickness and heartbreak.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this question. The love sickness, there are many stories, and I cannot show this. Many cases also about love sickness. You know, at that time, you had this so-called Qingjiao, the so-called, you can translate as religion of emotions or whatever, Feng Long and so many writers. And so there is something which Chen Shudong and other medical authors take up. They observe, he's suffering of this Xiang urgent. So this urgent, I did some research on this, and it was really mainly also female who suffered because of detachment from I think so. But many times he didn't say female or male. And now somebody could go on this research to ask these questions more. As you know, in these texts, they're distinguished, but yeah. So I hope this is an answer. It's vague. It's not, he didn't say. But there are many also women and also male who suffered at that time due to sexual disease. So this is also related in Jiangnan in that time, you know, and place Hangzhou, Suzhou, and Jiangnan macro region. So people had very interesting, also, you know, it's maybe different from our days. They just came together, drink wine and so on. So there are many stories about this, and then they suffered about this. And also nuns who suffered due to loneliness. So there are, yeah, so you could go twice in if you're interested to do, yeah. Stefan?
Okay, yeah, thanks. This was really a fascinating talk. Could you elaborate a bit more? There's actually a quite well-developed subfield of anthropology, the anthropology of affect. How your anthropology of care relates to that. And also, I was not completely sure if I understood how you position this anthropology of care that you propose in terms of a kind of study of care, or a more kind of applied anthropology that has actually a purpose of changing the way we care about each other. Where do you position yourself?
Thank you very much for this question. It's right. I must confess, I read a lot of philosophers, you know, Heidegger, about Cura and all what he says about care, Sorge in German, and its context. And so I really like now, I spent the last year doing some research on this philosophical grounding also. I think we need also this. And that's why it's more, you know, in the 16th century you had the beginning of Anthropology in German. It was a Latin word. It's different from maybe from what now we call social anthropology, cultural anthropology, and these things. It was a knowledge about the human being, anthropology, as replaced the former theology. So it put the human being in the center, the anthropos. That's why it was a German thinker who called it Anthropology. But he based it on only cognition, like later than Descartes. It was all, so the human being was understood as now somehow autonomous from heaven, from the God. So this was a very European development, so which I looked at. And now with my sources, I really read all these, I don't detach myself from coming from this European tradition of thinking. And now I really argue for, because in a medical, there is ongoing since a few decades, you have this Pflegewissenschaft, the care. So it's a different, they don't care about anthropology, they don't, but they argue for, yes, we need to take, so medicine is important, it's a technique, but we need really to put in the center of our attention all these caregivers in these environments, in these medical environments. So we have more traditions together, and I don't argue as an anthropologist, and I hope, so it's still a work in progress. I hope within maybe in 1 or 2 years we'll develop together what you say, anthropology of care, but I argue for, I care, therefore I am, and so this needs really attention. It's not just this sentence. This means it should flow into into decisions, about medical organization in the hospitals, especially in the elderly places where people really complain about this. In German it's called Pflege, optimierte Pflege, then you will need to you have all these calculations and that's just 1 minute for one person. And this is optimized, but so you see, so I have more threads from which I'm really reading and looking, and I was also engaged in Berlin in this Academy for Science, and we had a panel over 3 years, and I put in the center cura in medicine, cura, which means kurieren, but it means also care. So we had an ongoing discussion with also people from WHO. They came over and somehow wondered what we are doing there. So yeah, that's why thank you, Stefan, for this question. And I would love to get more in touch with cultural and social anthropologists who deal with this issue. And so far I'm not so much in touch with them.
I see a few more hands, but I am afraid we need to move to a second speaker due to a limitation of time. Let's big hands to Professor Messner.